Derrick Lynch, welcome to studio.
Thanks, it's very formal. Thank you, no problem.
Just try to think of different ways to introduce you. You're here to look ahead to the weekend in sport. Obviously, we'll start with the visit of Wexford to Zimmer Biomet Páirc Chíosóg on Sunday. Brian Lowen's side looking to maintain their 100% record, everything going swimmingly. That game thrown in at 1:15 on Sunday. You can hear that 1B clash live on Clare FM. Wexford should prove stiff opposition, but given the form Clare in at the moment, home advantage and so on, you would expect them to not win. It won't be an easy win, obviously, but maybe just get over the line.
Yeah, I think on form you'd have to say that. But then again, you know, Wexford's record here in Páirc Chíosóg has been pretty good the last couple of years, including a fairly comfortable win 12 months ago in 1A. You know, that was resulted ultimately sent Clare on the spiral to 1B, because I think from memory came off the back of the win over Limerick, and we were saying, geez, maybe we'll get out of this hole, and all of a sudden Wexford put us firmly back into it. So that might be something Brian and the lads will remind the players of before they head out onto the field. And to be fair to Brian, like, the home record is something that he's extremely proud of. And you know, I suppose the support that has travelled around the country in the last 3 games in particular to follow them is something he wants to now reward on our own doorstep, and I think that will be the message to the players going out on Sunday. Team name tonight, expecting a couple of familiar names to be back featuring. I understand Shane O'Donnell had been away for a couple of weeks with a work-related trip, as far as I know. He's back in the frame now. Adam Hogan, we haven't seen him. He is potentially on the way back. Peter Duggan, that ankle injury maybe not as bad as was first feared, so hopefully he'll get returning. Tony Kelly hopefully coming back into the team, you know, so it is starting to stack up now. That Brian was saying those injuries are starting to lighten off a little bit, but like, I suppose those lads we mentioned, particularly I suppose Shane and Adam, like, they do need the game time now, because games are running out before this Waterford clash. You have this weekend obviously, and then the 1B final, whether that'll be Wexford or Dublin. The result on Sunday will probably dictate that. If Wexford win, they're into the final. If Clare win, it's down to the final round of games. The 1B doesn't finish this weekend, it finishes for Clare. We've had the straight run. There is a round where the bye comes to Clare next week, and then it'll come down to scoring difference between Wexford and Dublin. So for those two teams, there's still a hell of a lot to play for, but for Clare it's all about performance now. You know, last game in Páirc Chíosóg before that big game against Waterford in a couple of weeks' time, so they're well set for it.
Okay, well look, they started the campaign with a big test that they came through at home to Dublin, and they're finishing it with, you would imagine, the same situation, hopefully the same result. Yeah,
and it's well bookmarked, you know, to be fair, and as I said, they've gone off on the road since that Dublin game primarily. You know, we were at home to Down as well, but took in a good chunk of the country in between all that. So yeah, it's building nicely now, but as I say, they have to, you know, I think it has to ramp up from here now, because regardless of whatever way you look at it, it has been 1B. The games in 1A the hits have been bigger, you've had less time on the ball, the game's been far more intense, so you have to start ramping it up from here on in. But I think they'll do that. And just to clear one thing up, there had been a little bit of confusion about this. I contacted the GA during the week. There had been some reports that the team that would top 1B would have a home final. That's not the case. At the moment, the communication I got from the GA was that the CCCC, I think that's all of them, are looking at potentially a double header with the 1A final and the 1B final if things work out. If not, they'll appoint a venue, but it's divisions 2, 3 and 4 where the top team has home advantage, not 1B, so the game will not be in Páirc Chíosóg.
God, the amount of times you called upon them to put on double headers, and now they're finally listening to you, I think.
Sure, look at sometimes
if you shout loud enough and consistently enough, eventually the message gets through.
What's that saying about the broken clock being right twice a day?
Twice is better than nothing, I suppose. And speaking of twice, we have 2 games live for you this weekend. Before we get to Clare and Wexford, Kilbeacanty and what's happening there on Saturday afternoon will be our focus, because St Flannans taking on Presentation Athenry, hoping to advance past the last 4 of the Dr. Croke semi-finals and make it to their first final in 20 years. They obviously bounced back to winning ways, defeating Kilkenny CBC last time out. Now, as we talked about it in the immediate aftermath of that game, it took some late goals, but they pulled it out of the bag. It's a big test, but hopefully come through it.
Yeah, big test. Firstly, I think Kilbeacanty is a brilliant choice for this game because it's within striking distance for both sides. It's only half an hour, 40 minutes up the road from here, and something similar from Athenry. I was up there a couple of years ago for a Clare Galway Camogie game. Beautiful stand, lovely grounds, and fair play to Kilbeacanty for making their grounds available. Things have been tough, I suppose, with pitches the last couple of weeks, and it should lend itself to a big crowd for that very reason, and a cracking atmosphere, which I'm really looking forward to. But from a Flannans point of view, there's, I suppose, a double-edged sword in this perspective. They lost to Athenry last year in the previous round, we'll say, in Gort. A certain Jason Rabbit and Evan Nyland put on a clinic that day in the second half to see off Galway, or to see off Flannans, and we see what they've done this year with Galway in the National League. So that was, there was no shame in that. They're quality players. But I actually just found the programme, would you believe? I was doing a bit of tidying up at home the last couple of days and found the programme from last year's game. I think there's only 3 players from the starting team for Athenry that are still there. I think Flannans, of the team that played that day, lads that featured and all the rest of it, I think there's something around 8. So that would tell you that they should be that bit stronger, but I've no doubt the lads will have them well primed for this. The reality is, win it and you're in an All-Ireland final, you're heading to Dublin for Paddy's Day. No, traffic and all the rest of it may not be the nicest thing on that particular day, as you well know, but it would be huge for the lads for a Clare team to get to an All-Ireland final in Croke Park. It doesn't happen half often enough, but a huge test against a very, very good Athenry team. But just got the feeling the way Flannans finished out the game the last day, they got the 2 late goal, and they have been finishing games really well. It was a late kick that saw them off against Tulla. They had a late kick against Nina that just fell short in the Harty final, bounced back, as you say, the last day out against Kilkenny CBC, and I think their conditioning should be good enough on Saturday, but it's going to be a right battle, so it's a game I'm actually really, really looking forward to.
Okay, look, you'll no doubt be previewing those games in some detail on Sideline View. Also, obviously, it's Cusack Cup action, loads of Clare sides playing in the FAI Junior Cup in soccer as well. Correct.
Yeah, absolutely. That is. It's a very busy weekend, and thankfully I think it's the first weekend where, please God, pitches will be back to somewhat near normal. We've had a couple of days now, there was a good hard frost last night, and that'll hopefully firm things up a little bit as well, and fair play to clubs that are minding their grounds, and groundsmen are doing fantastic work to have things ready. I see our own pitch back in Quilty was being well minded and cut during the week for that big game tonight between Kilmurray and Innistimon. That's a really intriguing game on the sideline as much as anything, because Declan Downs is over in Innistimon, is facing off against Kilmurray's new manager in the Coughlin, and those two would have worked together with Clare under Colm Collins, so they'll know each other's intricacies really, really well. And then you have Chíosóg going out to Milltown, who are under new management with Sean O'Brien, who manned the goals for many years, has a clitter of senior championship medals in his back pocket, and he's bringing a new, fresh, I suppose, youthful dynamic to that Milltown team that he's well respected out there, and rightly so. And then Shane Daniels is coming out with his new goalkeeping supremo. The coach that's in with the Clare lads in the setup is now between the sticks for Chíosóg. So there's just a load of little intricacies like that, and it's great to have the club games back. A couple of Gary Cup games as well, Tones and Cracklow down in Shannon tonight, and lots more over the weekend. So plenty local action for people to look forward to.
Okay, and Derrick will have you covered this evening, and then the 2 live games this weekend as well. Derrick, thank you very much.